One. Hey everybody, Noma Lang. I'm Charlie Moses here with themochamoguls.com. I'm back with Dr. John Beckem from personalfinanceblueprint.com, personalfinanceblueprint.com. How are you doing today, Dr. Beckem?
I'm doing excellent. How you doing, Noma?
Always grateful. Always grateful. I have my learning hat on, and I have another question from my audience that's asking about crypto. And before you answer, I've been hearing about Bitcoin all over my timeline. There's groups, there's blogs, there's talk about it, and it seems to be the new trend. And again, my whole thing is I want to hear what the experts are saying, not what some guy who invested last week invested and got something back and now thinks he can teach us how to do it. So the question is basically, what are your thoughts on cryptocurrency?
So my thoughts, I don't like it. I wouldn't invest in it. Cryptocurrency really came relevant. I think it was 2009. We had the introduction of Bitcoin, which is a digital asset. It's done digitally. And so it's just another exchange of currency. But I don't see the real advantage over anything that we currently have. So, for instance, that $100 bill you pull out your pocket, it's not really money. It's fiat. It's just a paper of exchange. It's not really backed by anything. I believe it was Nixon back in 1971 took us off the gold standard. So it used to be. So let's do a little history traveling back in time, right? So in ancient times, people carried around gold coins, copper, silver, things of that nature. But if you can imagine, as time evolved, it took more money to buy different things. So can you imagine walking around with, I got to go grocery shopping today, so I'm gonna use, $300-400, but I got all this in gold coins and gold, silver, and all that. So it became cumbersome. It was easy for people to steal as well, right? So on your travels, if you got all this gold and silver, it was easy to get robbed by bandits and things of that nature. And so then they started saying, okay, well, we want to also have, and just not the barter or the exchange of coins, also an IOU, some type of debt, and in creation of the banks. Again, for every $1 that you put into the banks can then turn around and lend $10. So it's a 10-to-1 ratio. And so when Nixon took us off the gold standard, which means that that dollar that you had in your pocket, there was a gold or silver certificate that was equivalent to it, right? So I could take in this paper dollar, take it into the treasury and say, hey, give me my gold that you're holding for me as this note. It's no more than a note to say I got X, Y, and Z gold and coins. But Nixon took us off that standard. He wanted to expand the economy. And how do you expand the economy beyond its manufacturing capabilities or production capabilities? Through debt. And so now you really have this introductions to a mass or great number of debt, both from a federal level as well as individual levels. And so therefore, the money in your pocket it just became fiat. It's just an IOU. It's no different than me taking a white sheet of paper and saying, hey, Noma, I owe you $100. And now, because I owe you $100, you can turn around and take the same note and give it to someone else that you might owe $50. And they turn around and give you a note to say, well, I owe Noma $50, and you just use it as a form of exchange. And so because we already have that, I don't see where Bitcoin gives us any advantage. It's just a digital form of exchange over something that's not really real, because all standards worldwide comes back to gold, silver, copper, platinum, and those commodities. So I wouldn't invest in it. I don't recommend anyone to invest in it. Right now, even though it's fiat money, is being backed by the good faith of the U.S. Government, right? Our military might, our ability that we've always paid our bills, and so therefore it's worth something. The U.S. dollar you can take to anywhere in the world, and it's exchangeable, and it's based upon the good faith of the U.S. government. You don't have that necessarily with Bitcoin. So I don't recommend it.
Okay.
If anything, what I do recommend is taking your fiat money and buying assets, right? So I want to take something that's fake and I want to purchase something that's actually tangible, something that's real. Whether or not you're buying a certain amount of commodities, gold, silver, or whether you're buying bricks and mortars, real estate. Or if you're buying other businesses, if you look at Berkshire Hathaway, people think that they're really an investment company in the stock and market. No, they pretty much buy companies. They either buy 100% or a controlling interest of that company, and that company is an asset, and it gives them tax advantages, right? So there's a difference in tax structures, right? If you're an individual, you're a worker, and so therefore your tax rate is going to be somewhere between 40% or higher, based upon what we call ordinary income taxes. Once you become a business, you get to minimize that, right? So 20% or less, because now you're taxed at this corporation, you have more deductions that you're able to make. If you're a sole proprietor, which means that maybe you're a dentist or a doctor or something like that, you actually pay more than your 40% because you have a self-income tax, which is added onto that, so you run about 60%. And if you become a passive investor, you can actually pay 0% in taxes. So now you're at 20% or less, hopefully around 0%. So understanding, the difference between ordinary and self-proprietor and passive or investor taxes actually give you more income, because if I can now have more dollars coming to me without doing more work, and I can actually save more, then I have more money at my exposure and disposal rather. And what I want to do with that is turn around and buy things that are a tangible asset to get away from fiat. Because there's a danger with fiat. Even if you go back and research the Bank of Cyprus. So a person take their money and they throw it in a bank. Well, according to now the Frank-Dodd regulations that happened after the melee with the banks, which is 2008, 2009, 2010, where they got
meltdown.
The economic meltdown, when they got bought or saved by the U.S. government in quantitative easing. The government said, we will never do this again. And so they allowed the banks to kind of have a great influence in their policy, and we get this Frank-Dodd. And so what this policy, one of the things it enables the bank to do, if it becomes to a point where it's becoming insolvent, right? Can't pay the bills, about to go under, that bank can actually take all deposits. So basically, the money that you put in the bank can say, okay, we're going to confiscate this now to help us stay solvent. And if we are successful at being solvent, we won't give you your money back. We're going to give you shares in the bank. So we're going to give you stock in the bank. Well, the bank is worthless, so why do I want stock in the bank? This is actually law that they can do. And how they done that is now they have put, because you voluntarily gave your money as a deposit, you are considered a creditor, no different than a credit card, which is unsecured debt. Right. And so if you look at who gets paid in the order of rank, shareholders, get paid first, and it goes on down, A class versus B class and so forth. And at the very end are these unsecured credit holders, such as credit cards, which is basically your equivalent to that when you voluntarily gave your money to a bank. And we saw this. I recommend anyone to Google what happened to the Bank of Cyprus. So that was the very first test thing that happened to see how this new legislation and policy could be played out in the real world.
Will do. I just wrote it down. So I'm interested in knowing, because I've seen it, like I said, on Facebook. There seems to be like this trend or this fad of people talking about crypto and getting into Bitcoin and all this. And they keep showing how they got in and they're getting more money. So I'm curious, how are they getting more money, and what's the risk? What's the risk of getting in, even though you're going to get more money? What are you risking?
Well,
and again, in layman's terms, because remember, we're not we're ignorant as far as the details of Bitcoin, fiat, all that.
Right. So here's the risk. So how can I put this? So I'm risking taking real money or fiat money, but money that's usable in our economy right now. So money that has, Benjamin Franklin on it. I like to deal with Benjamins. So I'm taking money that has Benjamins, and I'm using this money to purchase Bitcoins, right? And I'm trying to multiply these Bitcoins. I'm saying I'm buying it at X amount of dollars, but it's going to be worth because people keep buying into it, right? But there's a risk because I've taken something that is exchangeable. I can go to any store, right? Let's use Walmart, the biggest retailer in the world. I can take this money and go to Walmart and I can buy whatever I want, or I can go to the grocery store. How many stores are utilizing Bitcoin? Can you go to Walmart and say, I got some Bitcoin, I want to buy my products with the Bitcoin? Or can you go to a Hannaford or whatever grocery stores in your area to say, hey, I want to use these Bitcoins to pay for this? Or I'm going to pull up to the nearest gas station, the mobile gas station, and say, hey, Bitcoin. And so the answer is no. So the risk is I'm using dollars that I can go to the Walmart, the gas stations, and so forth, and get goods and services done. And I'm buying Bitcoins with the hope of growing that and hoping that I can now get out of the Bitcoins and convert it back to US dollars. Mm-hmm. That's a real risk because at any given time, it's all digital, right? So it's out there in the cloud. Who knows where it's at? They can shut it off. They can change the value of it. They can change the losses and minuses at any given time. So you have lost all control over real dollars once you put it into this digital currency.
Right. Okay.
So therefore, I'm against it. And that's me personally. I don't see how it is a median or a vehicle for wealth creation that becomes something tangible.
So could I look at it as almost like gambling?
That's how I view it, right? So, I go to Vegas to see the sights, to hang out with friends. I don't go to gambling, There's just something that I don't feel comfortable with taking hard-earned monies and just saying, hey, I got a 50-50 chance or less of getting some money back. Well, I know how to put my money to work, and I know how to do 35% guaranteed. So
so there's better ways to invest. There's better ways to make money than to get.
Absolutely. The more education that you have about a particular thing, the less risk it becomes. It's really the person who's ignorant that has all the risk.
Absolutely. And so how do you explain this rage that everybody's jumping in on Bitcoin? What are they chasing? What is the draw?
They chasing hopes and dreams, right? So they're chasing the same thing that your lottery players are chasing, right? They looking to get rich quick scheme or get rich quick avenue. If you don't want to call it a scheme, if you look at some of these infomercials on TVs, how to invest in real estate with none of your money, no money down, no credit, bad credit, and all of a sudden you're going to create an empire. I haven't seen it done, and so the Bible even talks about a person who's a fool who thinks they can get wealth quickly and they're able to obtain it and keep it, sustain it, right?
Right.
And so I believe it's pipe dreams, and so I would recommend a person become an expert and very focused in one field, one industry, and become a master of that industry or field. The money will come.
Right. So again, we're back to that point where you actually have to put in the work.
Yes.
And it's not going to happen overnight.
Right.
And
Right.
you have to actually be consistently. And again, I'm one of your students. You have to consistently be doing things and cultivating habits that create success and create wealth, rather than hoping that one risk will have one big payout.
Right. There's a difference. A distinct difference between a vision, a dream, and a fantasy. So I look at Bitcoins and gambling and Vegas and, get rich quick schemes as fantasies, right? That means that I don't have to alter my behavior. I don't have to make different decisions. I can keep doing what I'm doing. And I have this fantasy or hopes and desires that my life is going to drastically change for the better. Mm-hmm. So to me, that's a fantasy. Okay. A dream is, I have this concept, this ideal, but there's no implementation of it. There's no strategy. There's no timeline. There's no task or goals. I just have a dream, and I think this dream can come to fruition some type of way. It's borderline a fantasy, right? A dream can actually be something of substance. So a dream can actually be quantifiable. It could be quality. It could be a great ideal. But if you don't put it into work, it just stays as a dream.
Right.
So a vision can start off as a dream, right? So this vision, I'm classifying as vision, it could have started off, had its legs or infancy as a dream, this great concept, ideal. And now you're taking this ideal and you begin to meditate on it. You do research, you look at the feasibility. Now from that, I can put out maybe a 1, 2, 3-year plan, right? And this plan has milestones. So in 6 months, I should accomplish this. And in 12 months, I should be here. In 18 months, I should be there, and so forth and so on. And I got a checkoff list, right? So I've done this. Or maybe I didn't quite do this, so I need to revisit this, make some different changes, but I'm still progressing towards this goal. And so that is a dream turned into a vision that is quantifiable by goals and tasks and measurables and timelines. And so I believe everyone should be working off a vision. Without a vision, people perish, right? There's no timelines. How do you know you're successful, or you're making progress, or actually going backwards?
Absolutely.
So Bitcoins to me is a fantasy.
Many women are obsessed with losing weight. It seems like women are always trying to lose weight. And one of the things that I've always observed is that when you talk about infomercials, you always have a pill, shake, or something that comes on like, look, this is me, however long ago, and look at me now. I took this pill, and if you buy this pill and you drink this pill, you too can blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, it's just for people who actually want to not change their behavior, take the pill, and then continue doing what they're doing. And of course, even if it does work, it's not sustainable.
Absolutely. I think diet is a total waste of time, right? If you want to lose weight, eat less. I don't know how you take something so simple and make it more complex than what it is, Right. So you go on this diet plan, and now you're changing chemical balances within the body. Most of the diets are unhealthy. It's for a short period of time. It's rapid, and it really shocks the body. Versus someone says, you know what, I'm going to take 21 days and I'm going to change my behavior, right? So they're not doing all at once. They might start off and say, you know what, I'm not going to eat past 9 o'clock. And they might do that for 21 days. And that thing becomes a habit now, right? So now I'm ready to add on the next thing. So they might say, well, I'm going to get away from pork or beef, right? I'm still going to eat chicken and ground turkey and fish and maybe lamb, but I'm going to get rid of this out of my diet. I'm going to do that for 21 days, right? So now I got 2 things added. So I have no eating after 9 o'clock, which is now just a part of my life, right? It's become something that I normally do. And maybe I cut out 2 bad things. I just use beef and pork because I don't eat them. So I just use it as an example. It could be something else for someone else. And so now I got those 2 things, right? So now somebody might say, well, now that I got those 2 things under my belt, I'm going to cut out all sugar as far as pops, or what you might call soda, right? So no Coca-Cola, no things of that nature. I'm going to stick to water and juices and non-carbonated things. And I'm going to do that for 21 days. And slowly, you start to see your body begins to change for the better, more what you're looking for. You might add in, hey, I'm not going to the gym killing myself, but I'm going to go for a walk. And I might not even walk every day. I might walk every other day. And I might start off with walking around the block. And I might do that for 21 days. And then I might do 2 blocks. But now I'm doing things slowly. I'm seeing a change. And that change is sustainable, right? Because now it's become a part of my lifestyle versus something I'm doing for a week or 2 that is very extreme, harmful, and it's not going to last. Mm-hmm. And those same, and I'm using this as an analogy because those same principles and concepts work with building wealth, right? You got to change your behavior. You got to change the decisions that you make. You got to stop hanging around certain people. You notice some people, every time you get with them, they want to go eat. Well, every time, hey, man, let's go out to get something to eat, right? You spend $50 going to get something to eat, right?
So that's a double problem because
right. Or this person that you meet always want to go shopping, right? Mm-hmm. So then you always end up going shopping, buying something. I don't understand the concept of let's go window shopping. I don't shop unless I got something I want to buy. Window shopping means that you inevitably going to see something that you didn't consider at one before. Now you want to buy, and so now you're stressing about how do I get this, and now I want it right now. Microwave generation, so instant. So I might charge it. Had you not been window shopping, you wouldn't even put yourself in that predicament. And so these same concepts or principles also apply to building wealth. Why watch the Home Shopping Network channel all day long? You're going to spend money, Why have all these magazines of, the raw report of cars and boats or whatever, things that might be appealing to you come to the house. So you have to change your behavior, and you got to change your decision makings and understand the reason why I'm making decisions so become a way of life. And now that I'm starting now to minimize my expenditures, I can begin to have income to buy things that generate wealth, investments, assets. And I'm doing it over time because it's not going to happen overnight.
Absolutely. So you've already shared in another segment that you did based on investing and so forth. So Bitcoin's not it, but in some
I don't see it.
You give us a few things that you could do rather than Bitcoin, and obviously not a detail because that would take a whole book, but just a few other things that you could do rather than get into Bitcoin.
Talking as far as investment vehicles?
Right.
There's many. You can invest in a business, whether you're 100% ownership or a partial ownership. I'm silent partners in different businesses where I don't own 100% of it. I might own 25%, right? And what I bring to the table is my capital. So I have confidence in the management and the people who are running the day-to-day operations. But at the end of the day, my 25% is bringing me passive income every single month. So you don't necessarily have to have a whole 100% ownership in it. You could be 50-50, 10, whatever the case might be.
Can I just interrupt for a second to inject something? I often hear, because I'm a big proponent of business, okay? As opposed to just having a job. I think you should always also have your leg in a business somehow. And inevitably, there's always people who say, well, not everybody can be a business owner. So that really answers that question of you don't always have to take it all on.
Right.
Capital, you can put it into something that looks promising or that you've kind of vetted and you believe it'll be successful. And then you have a business, but you're not necessarily the business owner, runner, manager, and so forth.
Absolutely. I mean, just the tax implications is worth it by itself, moving from being an ordinary income tax and an ordinary income tax bracket to now a business entity, So there's many reasons why that is beneficial, right? Another vehicle for investment is real estate. And real estate has many different forms, right? So whether you're looking at single houses and you're renting it out, or apartment buildings, or corporate or commercial rather, real estate, that's another investment vehicle, right? You don't necessarily have to be 100%. You can do partnerships with other people that you trust, because I understand a partnership is a marriage, at many different levels, right? Equities is the stock market. So there's different ways to invest in the stock market. And it doesn't really matter if the market is going up or going down. There's ways to make money, whether you're doing calls or puts, whether you're in the derivatives, ETFs, whatever the case. There are many different avenues with that as well. Becoming a bank, one of the things that I like, loaning other people money for the purposes they might want to purchase a home or things of that nature, right? And so you hold the money, or become the bank, hold the mortgage, which is recordable, which is secure, because they don't make their payments, then you just take back the property and you confiscate all payments that they made.
So this is almost like co-signing, but
no, I would never co-sign. No.
So for us ordinary people, because I can't imagine myself as a bank. Yeah. So what does that mean?
Well, the technical term is purchase money mortgage, right? So, so if you think about a person who, and I'm just using common, everyday Joe Blow, blue collar worker, whatever. So they might go to the bank and say, hey, I want to apply for a mortgage, right? So they put a percentage down. and then they get a mortgage for the remaining, and they make their monthly payment plus interest or principal and interest to the bank, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what difference does it make if you're paying, ABC International Bank, or you paying, Noma Longa Moses, right? So a person need a home, a mortgage for a home, and you say, well, what's the value of the home, right? So the value or the cost of the house is $100,000, and you go through the same ordeal. You get it appraised. It appraises for at least $100,000. You get your lawyers and so forth. You go through the same process. So you determine, well, how much they got to put down. Where you say, they might put anywhere from 3% to 20%. I would recommend 20%. So they put down 20%, $20,000 on this $100,000, and then you give them the other $80,000. So they put down 20. Mm-hmm. You give them the $80,000. The house is purchased, right, and is recorded. Even though they're owners of the house, it's recorded as you have a lien against the house, just like any bank. So right. Instead of them making payments to ABC International Bank, they're making payments to Noma Longa, right? And maybe you charge them 5% interest. So that $80,000, you're making 5%, 6%, whatever percentage you agree to per year on that property, which is paid to you monthly. So every single month, you're getting what you loaned out back, as well as interest, right? I call it rental on that dollar. Right. And let's say they default. If they default, can no longer make the payments, you keep the $20,000 they put down. You keep every payment they have made thus far, and then you go back and you foreclose on the property. And by foreclosing on the property comes back to you. You decide to keep it, or you decide to sell it. Well, they're already appraised for at least $100,000. Mm-hmm. So your money is being secured or collateralized, technical term, by the property itself.
Right. So better than crypto. Got it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even when it comes to personal loan, right? So, I have family members that I don't loan money to. So either
because the probability of getting your money back.
Well, and this is what, in the cases where I loan money. So if it's my intermediate family, my mom, my dad, my baby sister, whatever, I'll tell them, look, I'm not going to loan you money. I'll just give you this to help you out. You don't have to pay it back. Don't worry about it. But in a situation where you're going to loan someone, and it could be a distant relative, it could be a friend, and let's say they want to borrow $1,000, and that comes quite often. So I use that as an example. Well, you're going to say, okay, well, what do you have to secure this $1,000 with, right? So you got to give me something of value that's at least $1,000.
Other than our friendship.
Right. It can be a wedding ring, a diamond ring. It can be an automobile. It could be whatever it is. So what I say, and let's use a ring, a diamond ring. I'm going to hold this diamond ring, in my safe, in my possession, mm-hmm. and I'm going to give you $1,000. And what I'm going to charge you is $100 a month. So you're going to have this paid off in 1 year's time, 12 months. I'm charging you $100 a month, right? So that means I'm going to get, even though I gave you $1,000, I'm getting $1,200 in return, mm-hmm. right? $100 a month. So it's worth my time. The other thing, I'm never going to call you about your payment. I'm never going to call and say, where's your money? You're late, X, Y, and Z. If you don't pay, you don't pay. I don't worry about it. I just keep your diamond ring. So I keep every payment that you gave me plus the diamond ring. And so now I have the option of going to sell it, take it to a pawn shop or keep it. But I've at least gotten my money back. So I secured that personal loan with the asset. So that's another investment vehicle, because the investment part of it was I loaned $1,000, but I got $1,200 in return, right? I loaned $80,000 for someone to buy a $100,000 house, but not only did I get a portion of that back already in today's present value, $20,000, I'm also getting paid 6%, 7% interest every single month. So, these are examples of different investment vehicles. And these are just a few. There's a lot that goes on and on.
And there'll be more, but we're keeping our segments short because, again, these are just, I guess, introduction to
right.
kind of more complex things, and we're hoping for more. But I just want to say thank you, Dr. Beckem, for sharing your knowledge and your information, and remind everybody that they can subscribe to your blog, which is at drjohnbeckem.com, drjohnbeckem.com. The direct link to the blog is personalfinanceblueprint.com. And talking of personal finance blueprints, Dr. Beckem is the founder of the Personal Finance Institute, where there will be more and more and more, if I have anything to do with it, courses that teach us. And like I said, in this arrangement, my role is basically student with a front row seat, and then a facilitator for other people to get the information and the knowledge that I'm getting, which I think is very valuable. So,
and the reason why it's a blueprint, because it takes a snapshot. Like, for example, I recently just helped someone last week. So, the person, you sit down and say, okay, what's your goals, right? And so they had a goal of being debt free, or at least their goal was to pay off 3 things in 3 years, right? 3 significant things. And they didn't want to work any more time. They didn't want to pull no overtime. They didn't want to get a second job. And so,
just to be clear, they want to clear off 3 debts.
Yeah, 3 debts, right? And so I said, well, it begins by taking a snapshot, right? So we have to look at the individual, where they're at right then and there, what income is coming out, what expenditures is going out, and create a plan of success moving forward. And so where they came in looking to pay off 3 debts in 3 years, I showed them a plan of becoming totally debt free in 3 years, and not working any more hours, not going out to get a second job, but utilizing what they already have. And so if you look at it, it's a blueprint, right? So it's a strategic plan that's laid out, and now the only thing you have to do is implement and stick to the plan. And so that's where it's personal. So it's personal. We're dealing with your finance, personal finance, blueprint, because it's dealing with you, the individual.
Absolutely. And again, usually we're talking about our own behavior as just ordinary people with a lot of ignorance, which I'm always willing to admit. So you go to an expert who understands what you should do, and you get a blueprint, you follow it, and you get the results that you were looking for.
All right. No building is built without a blueprint.
Right. Exactly. And neither is wealth. So I always want to just, before I close out the video, I always want to just tell everybody the value of the information that we're getting here. I personally appreciate that I have a front row seat to it. And I wanted to share it with everybody so they could also benefit. So again, you want to go to drjohnbeckem.com, drjohnbeckem.com, subscribe, and there'll be a newsletter that's going to start coming out with, information about different segments that are coming out, different blogs that are coming out. And again, the blog is personalfinanceblueprint.com. So again, thank you, Dr. Beckem, and thank you everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Have a good day.